15. Once in 100 moons. Tenka watched the Kotei approach. Once again the horn blast had sounded. Once again the village prepared for an attack. When the lookout realized it was the Kotei returning, not Easterlings or a rival tribe, everyone relaxed a little, but still followed the usual plan for village defense. The Kotei were far faster than the Easterlings, and arrived at the edge of the village before all the young and old ones had climbed to safety. They rode atop cinchas, no good for short distances, as the animals were very slow walkers, but over large distances they had no match. The beast could jump nearly to the edge of sight. Anyone who fell off a cincha mid-jump would take their last breath on the way to the ground. The sun sat heavy overhead. Tenka felt sweat beading and dripping down her back as she waited on one knee behind the men and beside her fellow hunters. The riders unlashed themselves from their mounts and tied the reins of their animals together. With arms outstretched and hands open, they walked toward the village. Tenka's mate, Och, went out to greet the Kotei men. "If you have any weapons," he said, "leave them at the Peace Rock over there. No one will touch them." He said this last part loudly, over his shoulder, to warn any children of the village within hearing distance. "Then come," he said, returning his attention to the Kotei men. "Rest, eat, talk with us." After the Kotei men stacked their weapons in a pile, Och led them to the meeting house, the largest dwelling in the village. They followed him inside, along with Tenka and Uriah and several elders of the village. Och himself ladled stew into bowls for the visitors. Drekken, the Kotei leader, said something to his band, and all but he and 3 others left the meeting house with their stew. "Perhaps you remember my top warriors and closest advisors," Drekken said, gesturing to the 3 Kotei who remained in the meeting house with him. Tenka was surprised to hear a Kotei man speak Rasi words so fluently. He had the strange accent of northerners, but the words were clear. Och nodded. "Welcome back, one and all. Please sit." The 4 Kotei men and the Rasi elders sat in a loose circle on hides and blankets spread out around the room. "How have you fared since last you were here?" A pained expression crossed Drekken's face. A bit exaggerated, Tenka thought. "Not well," he said. "The desert tribes have little love for the Easterners, but few are willing to start a war with them. They are fearful. The Easterners have great numbers, deadly weapons, even deadlier diseases. The other tribes have lost many to Eastern sickness already." Tenka nodded. These were feelings she and her tribe understood well. "Some trade with the Easterners," he continued, "and feel they would have more to lose than to gain from flinging the invaders from our lands." The elders of the village grumbled at this. They refused to trade with the Easterlings, although they did receive their fair share of Eastern goods from raiding settlements, or in exchange for not raiding settlements. Tenka fingered her Easterling necklace. If she were honest, Tenka knew her people would miss the Easterling things, but their ancestors had lived without them, and her people could survive without them now. "Still other tribes," Drekken said, "are too busy fighting one another, or amongst themselves to ever go to war against foreigners." He raised his bowl of stew and slurped a mouthful. Uriah spoke up. "Have you won support from any of them?" Drekken nodded, a small, slow nod. "The Abernkut and Heshtek have said they will send warriors before winter." More grumbling around the circle. "How many warriors?" asked Och. 11. 11 from each?" "No, 11. 11 altogether?" Drekken nodded. "They may as well send none," Och said. 11 warriors. "I know it seems so," Drekken said. "But every man or woman who can throw spear or raise tomahawk will be counted a blessing when the battles begin. And when it is seen other tribes have joined us in war, even if only a handful of each, it will embolden the rest and show the foreigners we are united against them." "It hardly sounds hopeful," Tenka said. "A fool places hope in numbers," Drekken said. "But a wise one places hope in great spirit." A few people murmured approval. "I believe Great Spirit guides us," Tenka nodded. "But I believe her blessing more often rests with those prepared than with those not." Drekken nodded. "Often that is the way of it," he said. "But there are times, maybe once in 100 moons, when the few who believe overcome the many who do not." The next day, Drekken and his warriors left Tenka's village. Uriah and the other elders pledged to make offerings to Great Spirit on behalf of the Kotei, for safe travels and a speedy return home, and for help in their war against the Easterlings. They could do no more. Their numbers were too few, and the prospect of an all-out war too dangerous. Tenka and some of the other villagers followed Drekken and his men as they walked their cinches away from the village. "Be careful," Drekken said to Tenka as he hopped up on his mount. "You may not want to join a war, but war may come for you nevertheless. If ever it does come, ride over the mountains and ask for the crazy Kotei prophet. I'm easy to find." He smiled and turned his cincha, then yipped and shot off into the sky. His warriors whooped and followed, leaving only a cloud of dust behind. Tenka wondered if the man's warning would come to pass. War had nearly wiped out her tribe, even before the Easterlings had come to their lands. Her people loved to fight, but hated war.